Hey there, Dominic Steele, Tuesday morning daily Bible time, and here's some questions. Somebody offers you a joint to smoke, will you smoke it? Somebody offers, come play poker with me, will you go? Or somebody says, here's a glass of wine, will you drink it? Or somebody buys you a skimpy dress, will you wear it? Or here's a link you could click to a porn image or movie, would you click, would you watch? Or somebody who isn't Christian asks you out on a date, would you accept? Or would you sell raffle tickets for us? Yeah, I know it's gambling, but it's would you? I mean, what would your choice be? Is it okay for a Christian too? There are a whole range of different kind of questions that we have to face every day, and I'm imagining among the people who are watching Daily Bible Time today, some of you say, yeah, sure, or no, or certainly not. There'd be a range of different reactions to those questions, whether it's drinking alcohol, getting drunk, smoking tobacco, or smoking marijuana, or working on the Sabbath, or watching X-rated movies, or going to a mosque, or going to a nudist beach, or gambling for fun. And we're beginning a series now today through 1 Corinthians chapter 8, 9 and 10, and it's really helpful series of chapters as the Apostle Paul helps us to decide what we will do in different situations. We're in Paul's letter to the Christian church in Corinth. Paul wrote this letter to a church that he had founded. It's not a letter written directly to us. It's a little like when you get an email where you get a blank carbon copy on an email. So Paul says the things he says, but perhaps he's not aiming directly at us, and yet there are important principles in there that he wants us to hear, that we need to hear. And some of those principles, they're going to hit us really hard, really sharply. Now, one of the features of Paul's letter is that he's replying to a letter that they have written to him. So look with me, chapter 7, sentence 1. He says, now, for the matters that you wrote about. And from that point on, his letter is addressing the various topics that the Corinthians have raised with him. So chapter 7, verse 25, now about virgins, I have no command from the Lord, but I give a judgment as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. Or chapter 8, verse 1, now about food sacrificed to idols. Or chapter 12, verse 1, now about spirituals, brothers, I don't want you to be ignorant. Or chapter 16, 1, now about the collection for God's people, do what I told the Galatian churches to do. Or chapter 16, 12, now about a brother Apollos, I strongly urged him to go. So he's picking up, responding on their questions to him. And so chapter 8, sentence 1, now about the food sacrificed to idols, they have written to Paul, asking Paul what they should do about this ethical dilemma. Now, a little historical background. It seems as though in the ancient Greek city of Corinth, there were big issues with idolatry and big issues with pagan sacrifice. Now, that I know is not such a big issue in Sydney in the 21st century. But what would happen back then is the meat would be offered to the pagan gods at their various altars. And when the meat was offered, the first third would be burned up, the second third went to the priest, and the third part went to the offerer. And if the priest didn't use his bit, then they put it on sale in the meat market. And therefore, in the meat market, there's all this meat on sale in the public markets, and you're wanting to go have dinner with your neighbours, or you could be eating meat that's been sold at the meat market that previously had been offered to an idol. And actually, it wouldn't just be your non-Christian neighbours, it'd be on the dinner tables of some of the Christians as well. And the question for you is the meat spiritually contaminated? And that's actually directly, that's still a question we have today. You go shopping centre, food court, you can buy a kebab from the kebab shop there. Probably it's been, they're probably selling halal meat in the kebabs. And what if that meat, it's previously been sacrificed to a pagan, is on special, and every Christian loves a bargain, or the vendors, they're allowed to set up a pricing structure that favours the pagan idol worshippers. And some of the Christians are making different decisions. Some are eating the food. They know that the idols, they're just blocks of wood. And so they eat the cheap meat, and they're encouraging everyone else to get in while it's on special. And some are saying that's a sin and you shouldn't eat the meat. And the church is divided. Applies today. Hare Krishna vegetarian restaurant on King Street in Newtown, or just about any Asian restaurant, little statue of Buddha up the back of it, and kebabs, they avail. And when we read Paul's answer, we see the issues at stake in this answer touch so much more than sacrificed food. At issue is whether or not we gamble, whether or not we drink alcohol, what clothes we wear, how we bring up our kids, whether we should go on overseas holidays, sharing a room with a boyfriend, girlfriend. So many decisions. And the Apostle Paul, in the first 3 sentences of 1 Corinthians 8, he gives a grounding for what he's going to say in the next 3 chapters. Chapter 8, sentence 1, we're just going to touch on this today. Now, about food sacrificed to idols, we know we all possess knowledge. Now, I think here when Paul says we all possess knowledge, he's quoting from the letter that the Corinthians have written to him. I think that's their statement. And the problem is that for at least some of the Corinthians, their basis for deciding what to do is knowledge and not love. I mean, these church members, they know what they are allowed to do, and then they go off and ignore it. They ignore the impact of their actions on the other Christians, and Paul challenges that behavior by saying, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Your basis for deciding not what to do should not ultimately be knowledge, but love. Now, there is stacks more to say about all of that, and we're going to pick up on that topic tomorrow on Daily Bible Time. I hope you can join us then. Knowledge puffs up, love builds up.